We begin hour number 3 of Sunday Bet Prep presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Dave Ross, Adam Kaufman coming at you here. One more hour to go from Circa and Boston, Massachusetts, respectively. And Adam, we always say we don't play favorites, but one of our favorites is in studio with us. Scott Pritchard back on the program. You can follow him on X as I do at Pritchard Wins. Scott, great to have you in studio, my friend. You know, Adam and I were like, what are we going to be doing for the Super Bowl? What are you going to be doing for the Super Bowl? Because a birdie tells me you might have a pretty good Sunday coming up.
I'm excited. You know, I mean, it was a very good football season. I just got back from I always try to get away after a 5 to 6 month grueling, emotionally draining season, in spite of the fact that it's almost always pretty darn good. I went to Costa Rica for a week, just got back, and after the Super Bowl next weekend, I'm leaving for Thailand for a couple of months. But the fact is, to answer your question, Dave, I'm actually going to the big game. And I like the fact that I don't have to come up with an airline ticket or lodging or a car rental. I just have to worry about the ticket. And now someone had mentioned that they're not convinced that the section that I bought even exists. It's like it's not what I want to hear, but I guess I'll find out soon enough.
You know, Adam, they say, Adam, Jim Harbaugh's line is, who's got it better than us? Scott Pritchard, I think, has it better than Harbs.
He's definitely got it better than us. I know that. Yeah, he's Costa Rica, Super Bowl, and 2 months in Thailand. I think he's got it all figured out. Scott, how are you looking at this game? I know you and I have spoken recently, obviously, but different audience. And so how are you viewing this game in terms of maybe how you thought about it a week ago when the matchups were set versus about a week out and what it looks like?
Well, from a fan's perspective, it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out game. I think it's going to be a great, great matchup, Dave and Adam. And the fact is, these two teams, I think I'm really convinced that the Niners are the absolute best team in the NFC. I'm not convinced, as much as I like Kansas City, I'm not convinced they are the best team representing the AFC. But again, if you go into Buffalo and you win, and you go in as a dog and you go into Baltimore and you knock off the number 1 seed, you are to be respected. And of course, the trio of Kelsey and Reed, and of course Mahomes, they are proven. And I love proven, documented, repeatable winners. They've been there, they know what it takes. But as far as this game, you know, the line came out late during the championship game, and Kansas City opened initially for a brief time as a 3-point favorite. Then all the money came in on the Niners. It was bet down to 1. It's settled in right now at 2. The total 47.5. My personal opinion, to your question, Adam, is the fact I have a small lean on the money line with San Francisco based on defense, based on the fact this team did not play well against Green Bay. They did not play well against the Lions, and the MVP in that Lions game with the Niners, by the way, was Dan Campbell.
Oh, my goodness.
Are you kidding me?
We were talking about it in the last segment, Scott. It's still as somebody that had tickets on the Lions +7, but I had money line tickets on them as well. To not get those home is perplexing, in a word. It's so interesting that you bring up the coaching because, yes, we're going to talk about Mahomes and Brock Purdy and CMC and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and everything else. It does almost feel like sometimes the coaching does get lost in translation. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, and I covered him in D.C. when he worked for his dad, Mike, way back when, over a decade ago now. Is Kyle Shanahan a better head coach now than he was as an OC when they lost? Dan Quinn was the head coach in Atlanta to Tom Brady, that great miracle comeback. And certainly he's been in this spot against Andy Reid and came up short. Is he a better coach today than he was then? Well,
he is, because he couldn't have been any worse. And I say that because, you know, everyone keeps bringing up, I mean, if you went to a bad movie, would you go back and see it again? And I'm getting annoyed because 28-3, I wake up in the middle of the night, 28-3. I had the Falcons in that Super Bowl, +3, looking good, feeling good, 28-3, third quarter late. Even I cannot find a way to lose this game. It was a slow, torturous death, and it came back to where the Patriots forced overtime, and then I knew what was going to happen. They won the coin toss, and Brady would not leave it to chance. They scored a touchdown. They win by 6. They cover. But to answer your question, you know, it takes me a while to get to the answer, but I'm telling you, Mike Shanahan was partly responsible. Matt Ryan was the other culprit in that massacre or that debacle. But the fact is, he's learned and he's gotten better. And I give credit where credit is due. You have to have thick skin, short memory to do what I do on a consistent basis, and you cannot get emotionally down or up or overreact to any one thing, because that hurt, and I'm still hurting because I'm still talking about it. So you want to bring up that game. What next? You want to talk about my ex-wife and the divorce settlement? What next?
There's some games you can never get over, Adam, and I'm feeling Scott's pain on that one. You just cannot leave that one alone because 28-3, they didn't close the deal, and I know that's still in the back of Kyle's mind at some point. Even though he was the OC and Dan Quinn was head coach, Adam, that still sticks in his craw. Like, he's got to get that monkey off his back.
So we're not going to talk about the divorce and the settlement. Scott, how do you feel about the total in this game here? We've been talking a lot about it, 47.5. It's really stayed there. Do you feel like it's going to budge at all?
That I don't know, and the reason I say that is this is the one time, Dave and Adam, that the public, Joe tourists, housewives from Topeka, if you will outbet. And out because there are a lot more housewives from Topeka than there are sharp professional sports bettors. During the course of the regular season, Joe Public is not betting and moving that number on Tuesday. But during the Super Bowl, 2 weeks of hype, I like to give the example of its amateur hour from a sports betting standpoint. It's conducive to New Year's Eve, where someone never parties all year, but on New Year's Eve, it's like a starving man going to the buffet. Don't ask me what that's like. But I have to tell you that this is a game where there could be a move on the side, the total, the money line, but it's not always accurate. And I say that based on what I mentioned earlier. But to your question in regards to the total, 47.5, I think and feel respectfully that that's about the right number. Me personally, 500 ways to bet this game. I'm not really a big fan. I kind of lean on the Niners on the money line, but I respect the Chiefs. This game I'm going to be looking at props, and I've pinpointed one at this point, and I'm doing the work as we talk, but I'm looking at playing one of the plays that I'm leaning on, Dave and Adam, later, as opposed to, because I think I'll get a better number based on Joe Public driving it up.
Which do you want to give that one out, or you want to, because you don't have to, but certainly you've got an idea, and this is really smart, America, out there. Scott's got a number that you think is going to get pushed up by the public, and therefore you can come back on the other side. That's what you're trying to navigate?
Exactly. Good things happen to those who wait. Patience is a virtue. Mm-hmm. I do want to preface this. I'm going to share with you my opinion on this prop. But before I do that, understand they call it gambling for a reason. 1998, I hammered for 2 weeks. The Packers, Broncos, Packers, Green Bay a 7-point favorite. Terrell Davis, stud running back for the Broncos. I told anyone and everyone who would listen, I put my money where my mouth was. I bet it and drove the number up, me and other sharps and wise guys. The total over-under with Terrell Davis rushing yards was 73. It closed 83.5. And in the first quarter, I believe he had 67 yards. I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. But in the second quarter, he's nowhere to be found. And you see him on the sidelines, and he's squinting, and he's looking dazed and confused. Mm-hmm. And I'm feeling dazed and confused. He had gotten kicked in the head and had a severe migraine.
Migraines.
So he was on pace to have well over 200 rushing yards, but he did not play the entire second quarter. I was annoyed even back then listening to the broadcasters because coming out of halftime, they're talking about the halftime entertainment and what their favorite color is and this, that, and the other thing that's not applicable to sports betting. And Terrell Davis, they said he's going to try. Well, he came out ultimately 3 touchdowns, 157 yards rushing, was the game's MVP. And winner, steak and lobster dinner. I cashed the ticket.
I remember that game very well. And yes, the story of the migraines for TD was very real. And that's kind of the cautionary tale, right? Because he doesn't go back in the game. You've driven the number up by 10 yards rather on a prop all week. That can happen. Injuries happen. And that's why a lot of times, not to say it's more advantageous to be on the unders, but it takes more things to happen to go over than it does to have unders hit.
Well, in that case in point, I played the over, Red Rover, but to your point, very sharp and smart on your part. Overall, generally speaking, I do tend to be an under guy because things are less likely to not happen as opposed to happen. But I also want to address Adam's question as well as yours, Dave, as far as what I'm leaning on. I feel that this matchup, Kansas City and the Niners, I respect both teams, but the Niners have a very, very, very good defense. They have a very, very, very good coach. And if I'm coaching, and I'm not, but I'm smart enough to know if you give Shanahan 2 solid weeks to prepare, knowing that the Niners are a good, solid team, I like the under 72.5 receiving yards by Kelsey. And I say that, I love Kelsey. Okay, I do. and he's proven. But 10 of his last 18 games, he's been under 72.5, number one. Number two, I think they're going to try to neutralize his talent, take him out of the game, and proactively say, hey, we're going to do not let anyone but Kelsey is going to beat us. And also, statistically, people lie, numbers don't. Niners defensively versus the tight end for the other team, 4th out of 32 teams in neutralizing, negating. So I think it's a winner-winner, steak and lobster dinner. See the cashier.
Scott, we only have about 30 seconds, but are you a Super Bowl MVP bettor at all? We've been talking a lot about that on the show.
I'm a value bettor. I don't bet teams or players. I bet numbers, and I bet value. So the short answer is no.
Yeah, I don't blame you because, again, we were trying to find value in it. And outside of the quarterbacks, and I don't know if there's a lot of value there, it just feels like it's one-way traffic these days for the quarterback award. I mentioned it last year. Patrick Mahomes had 168 yards before the game-winning drive. He only ended up with a $180 plus, but the 3 short touchdown passes, the narratives, they still gave it to Patrick Mahomes, even though Jalen Hurts was the best player in the field last year. Scott, we always appreciate you having in studio. We appreciate it as always.
Love both you guys. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
There he is, America.
Hey,
Scott Pritchard. Follow him on X as I do, at Pritchard Wins. When we come back, how about some storylines out there, Adam, that we have not gotten to yet in both the NFL and the NBA? That's next when you come back with us right here on Sunday Bet Prep.